We were supposed to talk about draft crushes today. Like, I did a lot of film studying on some guys and whatnot, and we are going to talk about some of my favorite players from the draft and whatnot. But then, as news kind of tends to do, we had to pivot. Some Donovan Mitchell smoke to Memphis per a report. Is it real? Is it legitimate? Let's talk about it right here, coming up on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host today, Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal right here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thanking you guys for tuning in with me on Locked On Grizzlies today. I'm going solo. My co-host, Joe Monet's getting a well-deserved day off on today. But thank you guys for tuning in with me today, because today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's episode, we got a lot to cover here because, as I said in the opening, I planned on, after me and Joe's episode on yesterday, I planned on talking about, some draft prospects a little bit more, going a little deeper into it and whatnot. Saw some videos of some guys, and then I'm just chilling, scrolling down my timeline, and then boom, this Donovan Mitchell thing comes up, and a lot of people end up asking me about it. We end up talking about it for a while, and there was a report from Evan Dammarell, a terrific reporter, by the way, covers the Cleveland Cavaliers, tapped in over there. So I follow his work. So this is not to kind of legitimize his work. I mean, he does strong work over there. But let's get into the conversation here that kind of started this Donovan Mitchell potentially being an option for the Grizzlies. What was said in the story is, if Mitchell doesn't think the Cavaliers will help him fulfill his ambitions, multiple league sources have confirmed would write down Uslit, the initial that Cleveland will begin entertaining trade offers for him, something they haven't done since acquiring him from the Jazz nearly 2 years ago. So this is Evan Dammarell reporting that Cleveland could entertain trade offers regarding Donovan Mitchell. Then he goes and says those same sources have confirmed separate reports that the Los Angeles Lakers, Brooklyn Nets, and Miami Heat are interested in acquiring Mitchell if he becomes available. This is where it gets interesting on the Grizzlies side. He says, however, a separate source shared that the Houston Rockets and Memphis Grizzlies could also be teams worth monitoring in a possible Mitchell sweepstakes. The Grizzlies and Rockets could be teams worth monitoring. Now, most people took that as, oh, wow, there might be some smoke here. But if you look at the wording, so they could be worth monitoring. I didn't take much from it. And, it's a me thing. Maybe it's the reporter in me. I personally have not heard much smoke regarding Donovan Mitchell in Memphis. And just to get into the conversation of like how this will work, I mean, there are two things that stand out to me. One, I'm not a fan of the idea. I don't think it is a good idea just because of the pairing. Ja Morant and Donovan Mitchell would be the pairing. So in this case, you're breaking up Donovan Mitchell and Desmond Bane. Or if you're adding Donovan Mitchell to the equation somehow, that's not a backcourt the Grizzlies are willing to use. I think the Grizzlies have figured out their formula. It's Ja Morant, it's Desmond Bane, a very elite 3-point shooter, and it's a wing who can grind out on defense, guard the best offensive wing player every single night, and knock down open shots, knock down 3-pointers, and help the team with spacing. That is the perfect case scenario. Donovan Mitchell doesn't help you in any of those things. He helps you from a talent perspective. Oh, it'll look good on paper. Grizzlies will, oh man, do the Grizzlies have the best backcourt in the NBA? Multi-time All-Stars, Ja Morant and Donovan Mitchell, explosive backcourt and all that. But that's not how the NBA works. The games aren't played on paper. And what we've seen, what our eyes have showed us over the last 2.5 years, 2+ seasons, Desmond Bane and Ja Morant works. You can win a championship with that backcourt. You got to mix some things up around those guys a little bit. But I wholeheartedly, 100% believe that the Grizzlies or any other team could win a championship with a backcourt with one guy who has led the league in paint scoring before, and the other guy is a career 40+% 3-point shooter. It's a perfect compare. It's a perfect pairing. And they both have averaged over 20 points per game in the NBA. So there is some shot making beyond just Desmond Bane being a 3-point shooter or John Morant being an attacker of the basket. It's deeper than that. Now getting to the Donovan Mitchell thing a little bit deeper. Here's another part of this where I don't see it. I really don't. Donovan Mitchell is best with the ball in his hands. You look at Cleveland's best runs this season. I think they had that 18-1 stretch, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. You look at, when Donovan Mitchell's played his best basketball from a scoring standpoint overall, a lot of it has happened with Darius Garland on the bench, with Darius Garland hurt. And you may be wondering, how could that be? Well, Donovan Mitchell, for one, is an undersized two guard, 6'3", 6'4", but he's super explosive, so nobody really cares. Like, the dude is a very explosive player. He's always been explosive. But he's an undersized two guard. But in today's NBA, he's kind of the prototypical combo guard where you don't have to really be a great point guard and you don't have to have the 6'6", 6'5" size of most shooting guards, like a Steph Curry, like Donovan Mitchell. All these guys kind of fit in between point guard and shooting guard, even though they play different positions. Steph plays the point guard position, Donovan Mitchell plays the shooting guard position. But at the end of the day, their roles for their team from the standpoint of you score and you get other guys involved, it's pretty similar from that standpoint, if you want to simplify it. Now, with that being said, that's when Donovan Mitchell is at his best. That's why if you saw Shams Charania's report on The Athletic, where after the Cavs lost, he dropped the story. And part of the story, I think, was talking about, Darius Garland. And the thing about Darius Garland was that I think it was said that Clutch, his representation, his agency, kind of is of the thought that if Cleveland extends Donovan Mitchell, they want to get Garland out of there. They're probably going to want to get Garland traded. And I think that is a telltale sign that even if Garland believes that he and Donovan Mitchell could still work, that is a telltale sign that some people over there aren't convinced that backcourt can get the job done. It's two undersized guys. You don't have it's not the Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, backcourt where one guy's 6'6", 6'7", and he can, kind of mask some of the defensive issues of the other one or whatever the case may be. Both of these guys are undersized. Both of them are below average defenders in today's NBA, so to speak. Donovan Mitchell has defensive talent, but you just look at the advanced numbers. He hasn't been a terrific defender in years. Donovan Mitchell's best days when he was in Utah, the thing about it was the fact that he played alongside of Mike Conley, who we're also going to talk about later on in the show. Mike Conley, especially for the latter part of his career, and we see it now with Minnesota, he's not a super ball-dominant point guard. He's a guy who can play on the ball. He's a guy who can shift to a role off the ball where he's doing spot-up catch and shoots. And Donovan Mitchell plays well with those type of guys because a lot of times Donovan Mitchell needs the ball. If he comes to Memphis, he's not going to have the ball as much. And even if Memphis caters to his needs and say, okay, we're going to put the ball in your hands a lot, John Morant, spot-up shooting numbers, not been great. I do think that there's some real legitimacy to the idea that John Morant could showcase some things as a cutter off the ball and things like that. But the point is, Donovan Mitchell has a huge contract, and all signs, according to ESPN's Brian Windhorst, suggest that the Cavaliers want to extend Donovan Mitchell. So they want to extend him. Now, this is all, if no extension gets worked out and I guess the Cavs end up choosing Darius Garland as, a guy to build around or whatever, and they part ways with the other guy and Donovan Mitchell, then someone's going to have to take his contract. Someone's going to have to trade for him. And that's when I believe Evan Dammarell's report is suggesting that Memphis could be one of those teams per the source that he heard from. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that Memphis is really interested or intrigued by the idea of adding Donovan Mitchell when they already have Ja Morant and Desmond Bane as a backcourt. They already have a lot of financial commitments to those two. And quite frankly, the 3 spot with Vince Williams, potentially G.G. Jackson, Marcus Smart as of right now, you have a bunch of options that are decent options at that spot as well to go alongside of Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't think we should be talking about backcourt starters for this team. They have it. Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, that's your backcourt for the next, 5 years at least, for the foreseeable future. Donovan Mitchell, great player. Better player than Desmond Bane. Like, if you just want to chalk it up like one-on-one, look at the numbers. Look at what he's done in his career. But he's not a better fit than Desmond Bane to play alongside of Ja Morant. I can tell you that. I think, Donovan Mitchell is at his best when he's able to be in pick and roll, operate with the ball in his hand. And at the end of the day, it's Ja Morant and Donovan Mitchell. Like, it would work. It would work, duh. But would it work to the level of championship success? That's what the Grizzlies are in pursuit of here. We're not talking about, trying to win a few regular season games or get in the playoffs. We're talking about championship success. And I'm of the thought that Ja Morant and Desmond Bane is a good enough backcourt. You got to fix some things around it. And Donovan Mitchell, great player, but I'm not feeling this one. But let me know what you guys think. Some of you might say, hey, to get Donovan Mitchell, I'm willing to part ways with a Desmond Bane or even a Jaren Jackson Jr., whatever the case may be, bring in a player like that. I say no. But if you are, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you guys think in regards to that trade. But coming up next on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk about some other trade options that the Grizzlies could pursue with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Exactly. I think there's a perfect player in Cleveland that could help the Grizzlies get to exactly where they need to be. We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, this episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. See, LinkedIn Jobs is the place for you to go to take advantage of any opportunities, because when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster. LinkedIn Job isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it probably the best place for you to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn Jobs does all that while making the process easy, and it's very intuitive. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, and they might not have the resources or the time to hire. And that's why all you have to do is just go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Coming up next on Locked On Grizzlies, trade options in Cleveland. Let's talk about them, because it's more than just Donovan Mitchell. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. I am Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal here in Memphis, Tennessee. And now we got to get into, my trade. I am of the thought that, the whole Donovan Mitchell stuff is cool, but, that's not the trade that can help Memphis get over the hump. As my co-host loves to say, Joe Monex says, are we trying to win a championship? Ja Morant and Donovan Mitchell is good on paper, but that's not the championship piece. If you want to trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think there's another piece that gets you closer to the championship level. And the guy that I'm referring to is Jarrett Allen. I think the Grizzlies should keep an ear over to what's going on in Cleveland right now. If you're unfamiliar with what's going on in Cleveland right now, it's clear that some type of change is about to happen. Before we get to, I'm going to talk about Jarrett Allen, but let me preface it with this real quick. It's clear that some change is about to happen. J.B. Bickerstaff, former Grizzlies coach, is the head coach over there. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, Shams Charania, they both were reported in so many words that the Cavaliers are evaluating his job status, evaluate J.B. Bickerstaff's job status for that team going forward. That's number one. Number two, we talked about the backcourt. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell. does it. It's an imperfect pairing. Something's got to happen over there. Then there's the front court. It's the same thing. Like this roster is super talented, but what you'll notice is Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. It's not a perfect. It's not a perfect duo. Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. It's also another imperfect duo. Like these duos just are. You got two undersized guards and you got two bigs that can't shoot, and neither of those things are a recipe for success in the NBA now. We saw it in Portland when Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum couldn't get over the hump, two undersized guards. We've seen it a bunch of times. I mean, less so now in today's NBA because most teams aren't trying to have two bigs on the floor that can't shoot. But Cleveland tried it and didn't work. So Cleveland's going to have to do something about that front court pairing. And honestly, I'm of the thought that even more so than Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, they're going to have to choose between Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Evan Mobley is the younger of the two players, still on his rookie contract. I think he has one more year left on his deal, so they probably extend him this summer or wait it out, whatever they do. But they have the option of extending him this summer. But Evan Mobley is the younger one. He's probably the better defensive player. Jared Allen is the better player at this point of their careers. And they're going to have to part ways probably with one. Might not do it now, but this is just my opinion on the situation. I think that it's best for them to go in a different direction with one of those guys. And if that's the case, the Grizzlies should be picking up the phone line because the Grizzlies not only have the need at center, but they have the pieces that can make Cleveland a better team as a result of parting ways with one of those guys. So let's get into it. Why did I say Jared Allen? Jared Allen, for example, he has been one of the better rebounders in the NBA. We know at the center position how much the Grizzlies need that. And it's not just that he's been a good rebounder. Check out how he's done it. He's had 3 seasons where he's averaged double-doubles. Okay, yeah, 6'11" guy, 243 pounds. You expect that. And he's not the biggest, bulkiest center in the world, because we've had the conversations about, wanting to put that bulkier center beside Jared. But, at 6'11", 243, actually Jared Allen is pretty close in size to Jaren Jackson Jr. But as we saw earlier this season, if you watch that Cavs-Grizzlies game, Jaren was trying to go at Jared and wasn't having a lot of success playing bully ball against him. Jared Allen, even beyond the rebounding numbers overall, he's had at least 3 offensive games in each of the past 5 seasons. He's averaged at least 3 offensive boards per game in each of the past 5 seasons. He's also averaged over a block per game in every year during that stretch. He's also a scoring threat, averaged over 16 points this past season. And look, I think this guy works. I think Jared Allen, with his contract status, with the financial obligation, I think he has a couple years left on his contract. And we're going to get into how this would work here in a second. Like, how could the Grizzlies, in theory, go get him? We're going to get to that. But before we get to that real quick, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Well, if you are, you probably got to turn the volume down sometimes because there's a lot of shouting going on. But to help you not even deal with that, just make the switch over to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube for the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Now let's get back into this contract and this talk about Jared Allen and Memphis and whatnot. I haven't heard anything, that this is going to be the case. This is just me, reading in between the lines and kind of figuring out. Cleveland knows that there's some urgency that's about to happen in Cleveland. And you can't, you tried the 2 bigs with 0 shooting thing. Honestly, I think they expected Evan Mobley, who's, one of the best players coming out of his class, and some people had him as the most talented player in his draft class. Honestly, they probably expected Evan Mobley to progress better offensively to this point, but it hasn't happened. He hasn't, shot the ball as well as some people expected. I remember he was getting Anthony Davis comparisons. Defensively, he looks the part, I mean, remember, it was only last year we were having the Jaren Jackson Jr., Brook Lopez, Evan Mobley conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. But offensively, has not progressed to that level. So if I'm Memphis and if I'm Cleveland, I think the Grizzlies are one of the teams that have the perfect. They have the perfect. If they want to do it, here's the trade in simple forms. Now, you got to work between the lines, make sure the money, the salary matches well and all that. But $20 million a year is what Jared Allen is making. Marcus Smart is around similar dollars. Now, I have said it. I want Marcus Smart in Memphis from the standpoint of I think there's more meat on the bone to see what this Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr. Quartet can do. But at the same time, if you tell me, hey, I'll give you Jared Allen, you send me Marcus Smart, and you work around the parameters of the deal, maybe a extra player for each side. Salary wise, I mean, Marcus Smart will be making around $20 million this year as well. Jared Allen will be making $20 million exactly on his cap hit. This deal could work in theory. I would be of the thought process that is something the Grizzlies, if they want to trade for one, if they can't get one in the draft, they don't like any of the free agents, you want to make a big splash, that's your guy. Jared Allen is the best option out there. That makes a lot of sense to me. And I say it makes sense because you can argue on the Cleveland side that Marcus Smart is the exact type of guy that they need. What they're missing right now in that backcourt is that lockdown defender that's going to play off the ball. Let's say they say, oh, this Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell thing isn't working. But Donovan Mitchell, I mean, he's one of the best scoring guards in the league, and he's capable of playing on and off the ball. A Donovan Mitchell, Marcus Smart backcourt would thrive. Yes, Marcus Smart plays into the, I guess, undersized narrative from 6'3", 6'4", whatever. But as we saw in Memphis, he can guard taller guys because of his wingspan. I mean, he's a former defensive player of the year. He's an anomaly to that rule about the whole small guard stuff. We've seen him have success in that role. So Marcus Smart, what he would add to Cleveland, Jared Allen, what he would add to Memphis, and it would clear the Cavaliers of that role. Now, some people in Cleveland would say, oh, yeah, Jared Allen is the guy we prefer more than Evan Mobley. Honestly, I see why. I looked into the numbers a little bit because I had people telling me like, oh, the Cavs are actually better when one of those guys are off the floor than when they're playing with Mobley and Allen together. I'm like, what? And I looked into the numbers, and this was a sample size I found for like a month or so ago, and it's a big sample size, over 600 minutes for both. With Jared Allen on the floor and Evan Mobley off the floor, the Cavs had a net rating of 8.55. So they were much better with Jared Allen on the floor than with Evan Mobley, Evan Mobley off the floor. With Evan Mobley on the floor and Jared Allen off, 0.46 net rating. Barely better than opponents. They're 8 points better than opponents when Jared Allen was on the floor, Evan Mobley was off the floor. So the point is, you look at those numbers, the numbers tell you that the team is better with Jared Allen than they are with Evan Mobley. But when you think who's the younger guy, the one they probably want to build more around, I'm thinking Evan Mobley, which would play right into a team like the Grizzlies' hands. Because we just talked, like I teed this up. We talked about Donovan Mitchell in the opening segment just to talk about the Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell pairing being imperfect. Marcus Smart, again, I've said this. Vince Williams' rise, Gigi Jackson's rise, Gigi Jackson to a lesser degree, but more so Vince Williams. Those guys being legitimate NBA players has made Marcus Smart a little bit more, a little bit more, I guess, dispensable. Like, there was a point where this team needed Marcus Smart. You don't really need him now for that role. You want him. I want Marcus Smart on this team for his leadership, his dog mentality, all that. But you don't need him because you can throw Vince Williams in there. And I think you can make an argument that this team could still have that perimeter defender who can knock down three-point shots at a very decent rate. Marcus Smart's just better at it at this point of his career. But you can still make that same argument for him as well. So that's my thought process. It's not Donovan Mitchell that the Grizzlies should be looking into. If they want to get involved with what's going on in Cleveland over there, because there's some turmoil and there's some changes about to happen in Cleveland. Pick up that phone line and say, hey, you got this center over there, and we got a wing defender that we can throw you if you're willing to, to put him on the market. We can make something shake. So that's my thought process if you're the Grizzlies. Jared Allen would be a home run. he would be, to me, in my opinion, the best option for the Grizzlies to pursue in terms of upgrading their roster at the center spot and solidifying that position going forward. Coming up next on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk about the playoffs and currently what's going on with a couple former Grizzlies players. So stay tuned for that. But before we get to that, today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. eBay Motors is where you're going to get millions of parts for your MVP. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. So with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com, where eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Coming up next here on Locked On Grizzlies, we got to talk about the playoffs. A couple of Grizzlies players are getting it done and potentially could lead their teams to a championship run. Let's talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. I am Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal in Memphis, Tennessee. Recapping what we've talked about so far on today's show, pretty much just the Cleveland Cavaliers and their situation. Donovan Mitchell, there were some reports that, from Evan Dammarell, who had a source that said the Grizzlies could be a team interested in him. We talked about some other trade options in Cleveland because I'm of the thought that Donovan Mitchell isn't the fit here. And if he isn't the fit, there's someone over there that is a better fit, and that guy's Jared Allen to me. So kind of proposed a trade there, put my Joe Monax hat on for a little bit, and I think that's one that works. But switching tunes here for a little bit, let's talk about the NBA playoffs, and specifically let's talk about some former Grizzlies. There aren't a lot of former Grizzlies left in the playoffs. I think Jonas Valanciunas lost in the first round. DeAnthony Melton lost in the first round, even though he was dealing with some injury stuff. And there are some other guys out there as well that are former Grizzlies. Sam Merrill, we just talked about Cleveland. But there are two guys that are former Grizzlies and spent a lot of time in Memphis. So I want to talk about them a little bit, and that's Mike Conley and Kyle Anderson. The Timberwolves knocked off Denver yesterday. It was ugly. Oh, that game was hey, 22-0 runs in one game is insane. And that's exactly what Minnesota did to beat the Sox off of Denver. I mean, it was bad. That was a beatdown. But they're going to Game 7 now. Denver and Minnesota going to Game 7. And as I looked at, that game and what happened there and whatnot, a couple things stood out to me. Number one was Mike Conley missed Game 6, and he was back for Game 7. I mean, he missed Game 5, excuse me, and the Timberwolves lost, and he was back for Game 6. And as Anthony Edwards said, I think they were reporters asked Anthony Edwards what was the difference, in this game. It's like Mike Conley was back. So localizing this a little bit, as Grizzlies fans, I really been wanting to know, how do people feel about this? Because it is the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a team you played in the playoffs. I talked to a couple Grizzlies fans who've thrown out the idea that, the NBA is trying to make Anthony Edwards, the face of the league. And that's Ja's spot. You can't just give him Ja's spot because Ja got hurt and got in a little trouble and whatnot. Ja still can get that spot. He's the face of the NBA. He's the future face of the league. So there is some, a little back and forth there where some people don't want to see Minnesota win. But there are a lot of Grizzlies fans I've talked to who said, man, Mike Conley's close. This might be his chance. If he can get past Joker, if he can get past Denver, he can be like Marc Gasol. He can get that championship ring and put that grit and grind in there. You got a couple guys with grit and grind in those championship rings. And how do you guys feel about this? Because before the playoffs started, Mike Conley had a quote. He's talking to reporters about when he talked to his team. And the quote was, Mike Conley, here's what he told reporters. He said, "My urgency is at an all-time high. I don't think there's anybody on either team. He's talking about the first round of the playoffs. There's anybody on either team that wants it more than me. I told the guys that selfishly, do it for me. Do it for me, man. Help me out. Meet me at my level right now because I don't got long. Y'all got forever, it feels like. But I reminded them the last time I made it deep in the playoffs was like 12 years ago, referring to the Grizzlies Western Conference Finals run. So it's not a given. You got to be taking advantage of the moments you get. This is a heck of a team we have here and a heck of an opportunity that we don't want to waste. Those were Mike Conley's words. And when I read that, skin started just, the skin got chills a little bit. Because Mike Conley, it's not the most naturally fiery guy is the way to put it. He's very chill. That's how he's known. People in Memphis always talk about him. Super chill dude. Remember the few times that I was around when you got to interview him, when I was interning in college. Super chill dude. Like, that's his personality. Didn't get a technical foul here in his NBA career. Like, that's who Conley is. So for him to say, man, do this for me. I don't know if there's anybody that wants this more than me. I think that's noteworthy. And we know how much he still loves Memphis. We know how much we saw him literally fly in between two games on a West Coast trip to be there for Marc Gasol's ceremony. And when he retires, he's going to have one in Memphis as well. The Grizzlies are going to retire Mike Conley's jersey. This has already been, pretty much announced. So the thing is, how do you guys feel about it? I'm really intrigued to understand where the Grizzlies fans, the rest of you, stand on this. I've heard some people say, I just can't root for Minnesota. Not with Anthony Edwards on that team, not with Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and those guys. Some people say, man, Kyle Anderson was a vet here. He was a leader. He was a vocal leader in Memphis. Love to see Kyle Anderson win. Some people say, oh, man, Mike Conley is still their favorite point guard in Grizzlies history. They want to see him win. And he's right. Mike Conley's had a couple cracks at this thing. The Grizzlies made the Western Conference Finals. Got swept by the Spurs, lost. But yeah, they made the Western Conference Finals. The Grizzlies also, not the Grizzlies, Mike Conley also had a 1 seed in Utah, remember? They lost to the Clippers, second round. That year they would have played Phoenix Suns, been the number 1 seed in the Western Conference Finals, potentially could have made the finals, played against the Milwaukee Bucks. Mike Conley he doesn't have too many more goals at this thing, especially in the Western Conference where everyone's so good. It could be any team, any year. This is a perfect opportunity. This is the opportunity for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm interested in seeing what Conley could do. Wonder what you guys think as well. Thank you for tuning in today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me today. Coming up on Monday, me and Joe Mullinax will be back together for that show. So make sure you're tuned in to that as well. Then remember, Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.